हेलो एवरीवन, वेरी गुड इवनिंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू। आई होप एवरीवन इज फिट एंड फाइन। वीडियो हम डिस्कस करेंगे 2019 में जो आपकी सीसेट आई थी उसके अंदर जो कॉम्प्रिहेंशन आपसे पूछा गया था। लेट्स गेट स्टार्ट। क्वेश्चन नंबर 223। उससे पहले हमने 2018 का सारा देख लिया था। यहाँ पे बात की गई है इंडियाज इकोनॉमिक फुटप्रिंट गिवन इट्स पॉपुलेशन स्टिल रिमेन्स स्मॉल है एज कंपेयर टू यूएस। ठीक है, यूरोपियन यूनियन और चाइना से इकोनॉमी के मामले इट हैज मच टू लर्न फ्रॉम अदर इकोनॉमिक्स। हमें इकोनॉमिक्स जो उनसे कुछ सीखने को चाहिए या फिर आपको सीखना चाहिए। मच टू लर्न, बहुत कुछ सीख सकते हैं। येट मस्ट इम्प्लीमेंट सॉल्यूशन, आपको इम्प्लीमेंट करने चाहिए फ्रॉम दैट फिट इट्स यूनिक सर्कमस्टांस, उनके अच्छे सर्कमस्टांसेस या फिर उनके अंदर जो खास चीजें उसको आपको इम्प्लीमेंट करना चाहिए। इंडिया स्पेशली नीड टू एन इफेक्टिव लॉन्ग टर्म रेगुलेटरी सिस्टम की आवश्यकता है बेस्ड ऑन कोलाबोरेशन रेदर देन करंट डाउन अप्रोच। ठीक है, तो आपको कोलाबोरेशन करनी पड़ेगी। काइंड ऑफ हम बोल सकते हैं लॉन्ग टर्म रेगुलेटरी सिस्टम के लिए। Regulations seek desirable outcome, yet are repeatedly used in politics, political tools to push an agenda or another. Often regulation fail to consider impact on jobs and economic growth के लिए or less restrictive alternatives. Regulation may be used to protect local market at the expense of more widely shared prosperity in future. Regulation यूज कर सकते हैं अपने लोकल मार्केट को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए भी। रेगुलेशन आप सीक टू डिजायर आउटकम, जो कि आपको पॉलिटिकल टूल्स हैं, एजेंडा टू अनदर ग्रोथ, ये सब ठीक है। एडिशनली रेगुलेशन इनविटेबली रिजल्ट कर सकते हैं न्यूमरस अनइंटेंडेड कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस हो सकते हैं। इन टुडेज हाइपर कॉम्पिटिटिव ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी में रेगुलेशन नीड टू बी व्यूड एज ए वेपन दैट सीक कॉस्ट जस्टिफाइड सोशल एंड इन्वायरमेंटल बेनिफिट चाहिए व्हाइल इंप्रूविंग द इकोनॉमिक वेलबींग ऑफ मोस्ट सिटीजन। तो सबसे लॉजिकल एंड रेशनल इन्फ्लुएंस कौन सा है? बेटर रेगुलेटरी सिस्टम विल हेल्प इंडिया टू अचीव साइज ऑफ इकोनॉमिक अप्रोप्रिएट टू इट्स पॉपुलेशन। यस, इट सीम्स टू बी पॉजिटिव एंड रेलेवेंट भी है। उसके बाद इन ए कॉम्पिटिटिव ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी इंडिया मस्ट यूज रेगुलेशन स्ट्रेटेजिकली। मस्ट आ गया तो थोड़ा सा एक बार स्ट्रेस देने की कोशिश करें। रेगुलेशन इन इंडिया डू नॉट फेवर इट्स इंटीग्रेशन विद टुडेज हाइपर कॉम्पिटिटिव ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी। Yes, additionally, regulation inevitably result in numerous unintended consequences हो सकते हैं. And in today's hyper-competitive global economy, regulation need to be viewed as a weapon that seeks cost justifies होने चाहिए. Again, we can't see. Then last है job creation and economic growth should be dominant consideration होना चाहिए in developing India's regulatory system. The best inference from this passage is the passage says that India's need a collaborative system regulation at widely shared and refer to the last sentence. The word weapons point to strategic use of regulation that seek cost justified benefit and overall well-being के लिए इन्होंने ले रखा है। इंडिया कॉम्पिटिटिव इकोनॉमी मस्ट बी रेगुलेटिंग स्ट्रेटेजिकली, आपको रेगुलेट करना पड़ेगा। तो एक बार आप इसको ऑफिशियल आंसर की सेम मैच के क्या पता है यहाँ पे इंडिया का या फिर जरा समझाओ। And on the basis of above passage, following assumption कौन-कौन से हो सकते हैं? In today's global economy के regulation are not effectively used, regulation use नहीं होती, protect local market, social and environmental concern are generally ignore की जाते हैं by government across the world while implementing the regulations. We do not talk about these, कोई effective नहीं है या फिर हम ignore करते हैं. So option D. Next is in a study, एक स्टडी में पाया गया कि साइंटिस्ट कंपेयर किया था microbiomes को poorly nourished and well nourished infant and young children. Gut microbes were isolated किए गए from fecal samples of malnourished and healthy children. Microbe was immature microbiome and less diverse in malnourished children compared to better developed mature microbiome found in healthy children of the same age. According to some studies, the chemical composition of mother's milk has shown the presence of modified sugar. This is not utilized by the baby for its own nutrition. However, the bacteria constituting the infant microbiome thrive on the sugar which serve as their food. Malnourished mother जो थी have low level of this sugar in their milk. Consequently, the microbiome of their infant fail to mature. That in turn lead to malnourished babies. इससे हो रहा है. Most race में कौन सा है? If malnourished condition of the children is caused by gut bacteria, it cannot be treated. The gut of malnourished babies should be inoculated with the mature microbiomes. Babies of malnourished mothers should be fed with dairy milk fortified with silated oligosaccharide instead of mother's milk. Research on winning effect of gut bacteria on nutrition has policy implication. So the answer is cannot be treated. We cannot say क्योंकि हमने कोई solution कवर नहीं कर रखा. The gut of malnourished should be इनको ऐसा भी हमने कोई नहीं किया. Then babies of malnourished should be fed dairy product. Research आपका start होना चाहिए and the statement given that malnutrition is untreatable is not stated in the passage. ठीक है. Mature microbiomes injected into the baby guts is medical abbreviation and dairy milk cannot be substituted. Okay. The research on the being effect of the gut bacteria from the basis of environment government policies food and nutrition. ठीक. कौन कौन से assumption और बना सकते हैं यहाँ से? Proceed probiotic food are solution है to the treat children suffering from malnutrition due to immature gut bacteria. The babies of malnourished mother generally tend to be malnourished. कौन सा हो सकता है? Is the babies of malnourished mother say? Processed biotic is next. Temperature has been risen nearly 5 times बढ़ चुका है as rapidly on the western Antarctica Peninsula than the global average over the past 5 decades. Researchers have now been found that melting glacier are causing a loss of species diversity हो रही हैं among beneath in the benthos in the coastal water of the Antarctica Peninsula, impacting an entire seafloor को impact कर रहा है. They believe increased level of suspended sediment in water cause कर सकते हैं dwindling biodiversity in the coastal region. Next, यहाँ पे आप assumption कौन कौन से बना सकते हैं? Region of glacier warm faster than other region due to global warming. Global warming can lead to seafloor sedimentation in some area, and melting ice can reduce marine biodiversity. Yes, you can say. Option C. Global warming से हो रहा है and can reduce. Next, a research team examine क्या था long term pole routes को. To stand whole prey on small mammals and the excreted remains of those meals that accumulated over the time provide an insight into the composition and structure of small mammals over the past millennium. The research suggested that when the Earth went through a period of rapid warming or about 13,000 years ago, small mammals community was stable and resilient. But from the last quarter of the 19th century, human-made change to the environment has caused an enormous drop in biomass and energy flow. The dramatic decline in energy flow means modern ecosystems are not adapting as easily as they did in the past. On the basis of passage, following assumption. Global warming is frequently occurring natural phenomena. Implementing global warming did not adversely affect small mammals. Humans are responsible for loss of Earth natural resilience. तो हम इससे डायरेक्टली ये नहीं बता सकते कि ग्लोबल वार्मिंग सबसे हुआ है. जस्ट हमने इनकी स्ट्रक्चर बताई है, बट लास्ट में ये आपके इफेक्ट हो रहे हैं ह्यूमन से. ऑप्शन बी ओनली. नेक्स्ट पैसेज. फूड वेराइटीज एक्सटिंक्शन इज हैपनिंग ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड में हो रही है एंड इट इज हैपनिंग फास्ट में, थोड़ी फास्ट भी हो रही है. फॉर एग्जांपल, ऑफ द 7,000 एप्पल वेराइटीज दैट वर ग्रोन ड्यूरिंग द 19th सेंचुरी में जो ग्रो की जा रही थी, fewer than 100 stream उनमें से कुछ एक बची हैं 100 के आसपास. In the Philippines, thousands of variety of rice once thrived. Now only 100 grown there. In China, 90% of the wheat varieties cultivated just a century ago have disappeared. या फिर disappear हो चुकी हैं. Farmer in the past simply bred and developed crop well suited to the peculiarity of their local climate and environment. In the recent past, our heavy dependence on a few yielding varieties and technology-driven production and distribution of food is causing the dwindling of the diversity in the food crop. If some mutating crop disease or future climate change decimate the few crop plant we have come to depend onto the feed, our growing population, we might separately need some of the those varieties we have let to go extinct. तो कौन से assumption हो सकती है? Human have the main reason है for large scale extinction of plant species. Food variety extinction happen all over the world happening fast. यहाँ पे हम exactly तो यहाँ पे human के हमने कोई discussion नहीं करा, चल देखते हैं. Consumption of a food mainly from the locally cultivated crops. Ensure crop diversity. Yes, अगर हम local वाला लगाते हैं then it can be. तो हम सही मानते चल सकते हैं, तो आपका इन्हीं में से है ऑप्शन बी और सी. नेक्स्ट इज द प्रेजेंट स्टाइल ऑफ प्रोडक्शन एंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ द फूड विल फाइनली लीड टू प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है फूड स्केर्सिटी नियर फ्यूचर. फिलहाल तो आपका बढ़ ही रहा है, उससे कैसे हम बोल सकते हैं, तो थर्ड को हम काट सकते हैं. ऑप्शन बी आपको बचता है. और फूड सिक्योरिटी में डिपेंड ऑन आवर एबिलिटी, हम कितना प्रिजर्व कर सकते हैं, तो ऑप्शन बी. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, what stand in the way of widespread and careful adoption of genetic modification technology is an intellectual property right regime that seeks to create private monopolies for such technologies. If GM technology is largely corporate driven, it seeks to maximize profit, that too in the short run. That is why corporations make major investment for the herbicide resistant tolerant crops. And such properties have only, इनमें क्या होता है, only a short window. As soon enough, pest and seed will involve overcome such resistance. This suit the corporation. The National Farmer Commission point out किया था कि priority must be देने चाहिए in the genetic modification में, to the incorporation of gene that can help impart resistance to drought उसकी salinity के लिए resistance उसके और stress के लिए. Most logical कौन सी है? Public research institutions should take lead the GM technology, priority देनी चाहिए technology agenda. ये हमने रेजिस्टेंस वाली बात की, बट अगेन ये हो सकता है, लेट अस सी. डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज शुड रेज द इश्यू इन डब्ल्यूटीओ एंड एंश्योर अबॉलिशन ऑफ, अबॉलिशन की हम कैसे बात कर रहे हैं. प्राइवेट corporations should not be allowed to agribusiness in India, particularly the seed business. Present Indian circumstances do not favor the cultivation of genetic modified crop. Again, public research institutions should take the lead in the GM technology. हमने बात की है, ऑप्शन. नेक्स्ट, ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ पैसेज कौन कौन से ऑप्शन हो सकते हैं? The issue of impact of natural calamities on agriculture is not given due to consideration by GM technology. In the long run, GM technology will not able to solve agriculture problem arising due to global warming. So long run में हम not able to solve agriculture problem. ग्लोबल वार्मिंग का अलग से हमने कोई डिस्कशन अपने का रखा है. इश्यू जो है ना जीएम टेक्नोलॉजी का, नॉट गिवन ड्यू टू कंसिडरेशन, अच्छे से हमने इसकी रिसर्च नहीं करा. ओके. नेक्स्ट, most invasive species are neither terribly successful nor very harmful, ज़्यादा harmful है. And Britain invasive plant are not widespread, not spreading especially quickly, and often less a nuisance than vigorous natives such as bracken. The arrival of new species almost always increase biological diversity लेके आते हैं region के अंदर. In many cases, a flood of newcomers drives no native species to extinction. One reason is that invaders tend to colonize disturbed habitat, like polluted lakes pollute करेंगे. Post-industrialized आपकी wasteland हुई है, where it else lives. They are nature's opportunity. The most logical and rational inference कौन सा हो सकता है from the above passage? First, invasive species should be used to rehabilitate desert area. कैसे करोगे इसमें? Law against the introduction of foreign material success unnecessary. Sometimes campaign fast against the foreign plants are pointless. Foreign plants should be used to increase the biodiversity. यार इससे हम कैसे बोल सकते हैं, उन्होंने तो नेटिव स्पीसीज को एक्सटिंक्शन पे डाल दिया. ये आपका पॉइंटलेस था, ये तो कैंपेन हमने नहीं किया. ऑप्शन सी ये भी आपको याद रखना। नेक्स्ट इज डायरियल डेथ। जो डायरिया से डेथ हो रही है अमंग इंडियन चिल्ड्रन आर मोस्टली किसकी वजह से? ड्यू टू वाटर एंड फूड कंटेमिनेशन। यूज ऑफ कंटामिनेटेड ग्राउंड वाटर एंड अनसेफ केमिकल इन एग्रीकल्चर, पुअर हाइजीन स्टोरेज के अंदर, हैंडलिंग ऑफ फूड आइटम, फूड को फूड कुक्ड एंड डिस्टर्ब्ड इन अनहाइजीनिक सराउंडिंग, दे आर द myriad factor हैं that need regulation and monitoring की आवश्यकता है। People need to have awareness of adulteration की and ways of complaining the relevant authorities. Surveillance of foodborne disease involves a number of government agencies में है and entail a good training of inspection staff. Considering the proportion of urban population जो depend है street food के ऊपर for its daily meals, investing in training and education of street vendor is of great significance. इसको भी हमें ध्यान रखना। So the following assumption: food safety is complex issue that calls for multi-pronged solution की आवश्यकता होती है। Great investment need to be made. Great investment. Developing country manpower surveillance and training. India need to make sufficient legislation for governing food processing industry. हमने कोई लेजिस्लेशन पे यहाँ पे कोई डिस्कशन ही नहीं किया। पूरा हाइजीन है, ये अडल्ट्रेशन सर्विलेंस क्लियर होना चाहिए एंड इन्वॉल्व नंबर ऑफ गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज डिटेल्स। एंड अगर इसके कंटेक्स्ट में आप इसका सॉल्यूशन भी ऐसे देखो तो हो सकता है, बट अगेन यहाँ पे आंसर लिखा ए 1 and 2। फूड सेफ्टी कॉम्प्लेक्स है एंड ग्रेट इन्वेस्टमेंट आपका हो सकता है सर्विलेंस एंड ट्रेनिंग के लिए। देयर आर myriad फैक्टर नीड रेगुलेशन मॉनिटरिंग कंसीडरेशन हम कर सकते हैं। Next is the interest of working and poor people have historically been neglected सी हुई है in the planning of our cities. Our cities are increasingly intolerant है, unsafe है, unviable place है for large number of citizens, and yet we continue to plan old ways. The static development plan that draw exclusively from technical expertise, distance from the people, life experiences and needs, and actively exclude large number of people, places, activities and practice that are integral part of ICT. तो पैसेज क्या आर्ग्यू कर रहा है? Against the monopoly of builder and interest of the elite group, against the need for global and against the need smart cities, against counter, in the favor of planning cities, mainly working class and poor people, and favor in participating people in the city planning. ये आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पे वर्किंग हिस्टोरिकली बीन रेगुलेटेड है, तो इनको हमें लेके आना चाहिए। ऑप्शन डी 35 to 35 मेजर ए वास्ट मेजोरिटी ऑफ इंडियंस क्या है? पुअर है। विद बेयरली 10% एम्प्लॉयड कहाँ पे है? ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर के अंदर है। वी आर बीइंग कन्विंस दैट विगरस इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ इज जनरेटिंग सब्सटेंशियल एम्प्लॉयमेंट, बट दिस इज नॉट सो। When our economy was growing at 3% जब ग्रो कर रही थी per year, employment in organized sector was growing 2%. As the economy began to grow at 7 to 8%, the rate of growth of employment in organized sector decline हुआ है 1%. क्या बात कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे? कौन सा implication हो सकती है? Most of the modern economic growth is based on technological progress. Much of modern India economy does not nurture sufficient symbiotic relationship नहीं है with labor intensive ये सब। सर्विस सेक्टर इज नॉट वेरी लेबर इंटेंसिव, यस वी कैन से। ठीक है, ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर की हम बात कर सकते हैं। एंड लिटरेट टूल पीपल इज नॉट विलिंग टू एंटर ऑर्गेनाइज, क्यों नहीं है? हाउ वी कैन से। तो फोर्थ को कैंसिल करके 1 2 and 3 प्लस करेक्ट। नेक्स्ट, इंडिया हैज ए बैंकिंग correspondent who will help bring people in the hinterland into the banking fold. For them to succeed, bank cannot crimp on the cost. They also cannot afford to ignore investing in the financial education and literacy. Banking correspondents are way too small to be viewed as a systemic risk. Yet, India's banking regulator has restricted them to serving only one bank, perhaps to prevent arbitrage. Efforts at banking outreach may succeed only if there are better incentives at work for such a last mile worker. Also, those provide who ensure just basic bank account, but also products such as accident and life insurance, micro pension bill. Most logical कौन सा हो सकता है? Effort to bring people in India's hinterland into the banking system are not successful. For meaning financial inclusion, India's banking system needs more number of banking correspondent and last mile worker. Yes, we can say. एक बार इसको देख लेते हैं. Meaningful financial inclusion in India require that banking correspondent have diverse skill. Okay, हाँ, यहाँ पे हमने इंश्योरेंस की बात की है. Better banking outreach would be impossible है, unless each banking correspondent is allowed to serve a number of banks. Option C. Diverse skill के हमें आवश्यकता है. Next, political theorists no doubt have to take history of injustice. For example, untouchability. Seriously, the concept of historical injustice takes note of variety of historical wrongs that continue into the present in some form of the other, and to register or repair wrong. Two reasons might account for resistance to repair. One, not only are roots of injustice buried deep in history, injustice self constitute economic structure of exploitation, ideology of discrimination, and mode of representation. To the category of historical injustice generally extend हो रहा है across a number of wrongs such as economic deprivation, social discrimination, lack of recognition. The category is complex, not only because the overlap between a number of wrongs, but because one or other wrong generally discriminate tends to acquire partial autonomy from others. ठीक है, it is borne out by the history of repairing. तो कौन सा मेन आइडिया? Untouchability in India has not been taken seriously by political theorists. Historical injustice is narratively in a society and always beyond repair. Yes, it can. Social discrimination and deprivation have their roots in bad economics. It is difficult, if not impossible, to repair every manifestation of a historical injustice. So the answer is B. If it is difficult, it not impossible nahi hai to repair the manifestation of historical injustice, because Apache say that historical injustice has deep roots and constitute exploitation. Discrimination and efficient mode of representation are generally extend to number of wrongs. So it's difficult to repair every manifestation of it. On the basis of above passage, कौन सा बन सकता है हमारा आंसर? Removal of economic discrimination lead to removal of social discrimination. Democratic polity is best way to repair historical wrongs. कौन सा हम इसको सही मान सकते? None is wrong, none is correct because removal of economic इससे हम exactly नहीं बता सकते कि आपका remove हो जाएगा. And democratic past, it follows the explanation of answer number 3, the neither removal of economic discrimination nor polity with the way of Next, soil in which nearly all our food grows. सारे आपके almost crops यहाँ पे growth थी. is a living resource है that takes year to form. बहुत सारी साल इसको लग सकती है बनने में. Yet it can vanish in a minute. एक मिनट में ही vanish हो सकती है, खत्म हो सकती है, फिर इसको बाया जा सकता है. Each year 75 billion tons of fertile soil जा रही because of erosion. That is alarming है, and not just for food producers. Soil can trap a huge quantity of carbon dioxide in the form of organic carbon है, prevent it from escaping into the environment. कौन से यहाँ पे जंक्शन है? लार्ज स्केल सोइल इरोजन इज मेजर रीजन फॉर वाइड स्प्रेड फूड इनसिक्योरिटी का हम कैसे बोल सकते हैं? सोइल इरोजन एंथ्रोपोजेनिक है. सस्टेनेबल मैनेजमेंट ऑफ सोइल कम्बैटिंग द सोइल इरोजन. तो ओनली आपका 3 थोड़ा सा रिलेवेंट है कि सस्टेनेबल से हो सकता है, बाकी तो ये एक्सट्रीम स्टेटमेंट है. नेक्स्ट, inevitably inequality is visible even statically measured in many instances, but the economic power that drive it is invisible and not measurable. Like the force of gravity, power is organizing principle of inequality, be it of income, wealth, gender, race, religion, and region. Its effects are seen in प्रिवेजिव मैनर्स में नोस्फेयर में आप देख सकते हो, बट द वेज इन विच इकोनॉमिक पावर pulls and tilts visible economies variable remain invisibly obscure. तो वो पैसेज कौन से जम्पशन आप बना सकते हो? इकोनॉमिक पावर इज ओनली रीजन ऑफ एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ इनइक्वालिटी. इकोनॉमिक है, but the economic power that drives the invisible and not measurable and whole sphere. Economy is powerful that tilt visible economies. Inequality of different kind income, wealth, and reinforce the power. Economic power can be analyzed more through its effect than empirical method. Yes, ऑप्शन सी आपका बिल्कुल ठीक है. And then economic only reason that all inequality is driven by economic power. तो सारी इसी से आएंगे. But while the former is miserable, the latter hasn't. ठीक है. So option 1 is valid, but 2 is reserved stated there. First and 3 दोनों की. Option C. Next, climate change may actually benefit some plant by lengthening growing season उनका बढ़ा सकता है. Climate change से season बढ़ा हो. Increasing carbon dioxide बढ़ा सकता है. Yet another effect of warmer world such as more pest, drought, flooding, ये भी आपकी will be less meaning. Okay. How will the world adapt? Adapt कैसे करेगा पूरा संसार? Researcher project that by 2050, suitable cropland of core commodities maize, potato, rice, wheat will shift in some cases, pushing farmer to plant new growth आपको लगानी पड़ सकती है. Some farmland may benefit from warming, but other won't. Climate alone does not dictate it. Political shift, global demand, agriculture practice, ये भी influence कर सकते हैं. How farm fare in the future. तो कौन सा आपका influence है? Logical. Farmer who modernizing their method and diversity, their field may be advanced as position in future. Climate change will adversely affect the crop diversity. Shifting major crop to new cropland will lead to great increase in the total number of area under cultivation and thus increase in overall agriculture production. Climate change is the most important factor affecting agriculture community in economy in future. So climate change के बारे में हमने डिस्कस किया है. We can say कि रिसर्चर प्रोजेक्ट 250 आपकी वेराइटीज वो हो जाएंगी, शिफ्ट हो जाएंगी एंड सम फार्मलैंड में भी फार्मिंग से अदर will not change. Climate not सिर्फ क्लाइमेट नहीं, तो फार्मर कैन modernize their method and diversify their field advantage फ्यूचर में लेने के लिए. दिस इज द सॉल्यूशन. लेकिन इन्फ्लुएंस जो आपको फ्यूचर एंड प्रेजेंट के हिसाब से ही सॉल्यूशन अप्रोच बतानी पड़ेगी. नेक्स्ट, ए बैट्स विंग may look like the sheet of skin की तरह दिखती है, but underneath a bat has the same 5 finger होती हैं as an organ or human, as well as the wrist connected to the same cluster of wrist bones connected to some long bones होते हैं आर्म के ऊपर, but can be more curious than the hand of man, found for grasping, that of a mole for digging, the leg of the horse, paddle of the for poisoned, wing of the bat should be constructed in the same pattern. So the following is most logical, scientific, and rational inference on side. Different species having similar structure of hand. Example of biodiversity. Okay. Limbs being used by different species for different kind of working as example of biodiversity. Man and the aforementioned animals have similar structure of limbs in the coincidence of evolution way. Man and aforesaid animals aforementioned have shared evolutionary history. ये आपका लिंक्स के हिसाब से इन्होंने बता दिया, तो ये हिस्ट्री के हिसाब से हम कैसे बता सकते हैं? सेम थी. Limbs of various species showing same pattern of construction, clearing the same process of evolution undergone by all. प्लीज आज एक बार इसको चेक कर लेना, ये भी ये कौन सा हुआ. Around 56 million year ago, the Atlantic Ocean had not fully open नहीं थे, and animals, perhaps including our primate ancestry, would walk from Asia to North America through Europe and across Greenland. Was warmer than it today, but the Paleocene epoch gave way to Eocene, and it was about to get much warmer, still rapidly and radically. The cause was massive geologically sudden release of carbon during the period called Paleocene, Ecocene, dioxin and thermal maximum or PTM, the carbon injected into the atmosphere was roughly the amount that would be injected today if human burned all the earth reserves of a coal, natural gas and so. The PTM lasts for 1,50,000 until the excess carbon dioxide really absorbed. It grows on the drought आ सकते हैं, food insect plague आ सकते हैं, कुछ extinction भी हो सकता है. ठीक है, life on the earth survived, indeed it's proposed and but it will be drastically different हो सकता है. कौन से assumption हम बना सकते हैं, कौन सी वैलिड है? ग्लोबल वार्मिंग बियरिंग ए प्लैनेट बायोलॉजिकल बैलेंस कर सकता है. Separation of land mass cause the release of huge quantity of carbon dioxide into atmosphere. Increased warming of earth atmosphere can change the composition of its flora and fauna. Present man-made global warming will finally similar conditions 57 million ago. So separation of land mass से carbon आ सकता है and similar to option D. Next, low end of IoT, that is Internet of Things. Devices are cheap commodity items. Addressing security would add to the cost. This class of item is proliferating in new applications. Many home appliances, thermostats, security and monitoring devices, and personal convenience device are a part of it. That is Internet of Things. So our fitness tracker, certain medical implants, and computer-like device in automobiles, the IoT is expected to expand exponentially. But new security challenges are daunting. So the following statement is most logical है and rational interference. कौन सा यार? Development of enabling technology in India can be a big boost हो सकता है manufacturing sector के लिए. India is not a fully ready to adopt IoT. Security challenge की बात कर रहे हैं. Life becomes more comfortable with the development of ठीक है. As we go digital, we must recognize the huge threat of IoT in subset. So this class of proliferating new applicants home devices हो सकते हैं, fitness tracker, certain medical implants, but new security challenge भी. So 245 में India is not fully ready to adopt IoT security challenge. Next, with the digital phenomena restructuring most social sector, it is little surprise that global trade negotiations are now in the digital area in an attempt to preemptively colonize it. Big data is freely collected or mined from the developing countries से लिया जा रहा है, converted into digital intelligence in developed countries. This intelligence begins to control different sectors and extract monopoly rents. A large foreign company providing cab service, for instance, is not a network of car and drivers. It is digitally intelligence and commuting public transport, road traffic, city events, personal behavior characteristics of commuter and drivers and so on. Rational policy globalization is not an interest of India as undermines socioeconomic. India should be careful to protect digital sovereignty. Yes, India should charge monopoly rent. Rent can कैसे बात कर सकते हैं? The loss of big data from India is proportional to the degree of high value of foreign trade. Again, India should careful digital sovereignty. The trade. Next, so the following is most definitely implied. कौन सा है? Big data is the key है. Key resource है digital space में. Economic create big data. Access to big data is prerogative of developed countries. Access and possession of big data is characteristics of a developed country. Again, big data is digital space. Then the rural poor across the world, including India, have contributed करते हैं little to human induced climate change के तरफ. Yet they are on the front line in coping with its effect. Farmer can no longer rely on historical average for rainfall and temperature, and more frequent and extreme weather events such as drought, flood, and can spell disaster. As there are new threats such as sea level rise and the impact of melting glacier on the water supply. How significant are small farms? As many as 2 billion people worldwide depend for their food and livelihood. सम स्मॉल होल्डर जो आपके फार्मर हैं इन इंडिया प्रोड्यूस 41% ऑफ द कंट्रीज फूड ग्रेन एंड अदर फूड आइटम्स कंट्रीब्यूट टू लोकल नेशनल फूड सिक्योरिटी. कौन सा है? सपोर्टिंग स्मॉल फार्मर इज इंपॉर्टेंट है, part of any agenda regarding environmental sustainable development. ठीक है. Poor countries have little role to play in mitigation of. रोल कम कैसे बता सकते हैं? Due to large number of farmer household, India will not have a food security problem और नहीं है in the foreseeable future. Only small farm owner in India can ensure. सिर्फ यही कर सकते हैं. तो most appropriate is supporting करना चाहिए उनको agenda जो भी हो sustainable development because they are contributing 41%. The passage imply that there is a potential problem है food insecurity की. India have to strengthen disaster management capability. Both because follows call for support to small farmers. This also is a changing climate and eventual effort of government, however reluctant to deal with it, would have a big impact on investor return. Companies that produce or use large amount of fossil fuel will face higher taxes and regulatory burden also. Some energy producer may find it impossible to exploit their known reserves and be left with a standard asset. Deposit of oil and coal that have to be left in the ground. Other industries could be affected by economic damage caused by more extreme weather, storm, flood in सबसे आ सकता है. कौन सी assumption है? Government and companies need to adequately prepare face to climate change. Okay. India's extreme जो weather event है will reduce the economic growth of countries and companies in the future. Ignoring climate change is a huge risk है investor के लिए. Extreme weather event will reduce the economic growth and the deposit of the oil is only 1 and 3. Ignore climatic risk and government and company adequately prepare रहना चाहिए. ये सब effort for government big impact. Next 51. Assessing to school for those coming to school age is close to universal, but access to quality exhibit a sharp gradient अभी socio-economic status के अंदर. Quota for weaker section in the private school is a provision introduce किया गया था right to children to free education act के अंदर 2019 sorry 2019 में जो था 2009 में. And quota have imposed a debate on issues of social integration and equity in education that private actor had escaped by and large. The idea of egalitarian education system with equality and opportunity as its primary goal होना चाहिए appear to be outside the space that private school principal inhabit. Therefore, the imposition of the quota has led to resistance, sometimes justified. Assumption concepts making equality of opportunity is a reality fundamental goal. कैसे बता सकते हैं? Present Indian school system is unable to private egalitarian education. यहाँ पे हम बोल सकते हैं opportunity of equality. Abolition of private school and establishment of more government school is only way. ये तो हम बिल्कुल नहीं कर सकते. अगर इसको काटते हैं, then we can think कि first को है, या two को हम ले सकते हैं. No, two तो है आपका first नहीं ले सकते. Reality की कोई बात नहीं. Majority of the TB infected in India are poor हैं and lack sufficient nutrition इनके पास. तो sufficient nutrition नहीं है. Suitable housing have little understanding of prevention. TB then devastates families, make the poor और भी poor बना रही है, particularly affect कर रही है women and children को, and lead to ostracism and loss of employment. The truth is that even if the TB does not kill the hungry and poverty will. Another truth is that deep-seated stigma, lack of counseling, expensive treatment, and lack of adequate support from the provider and family, coupled with the tutor's side effect, demotivate patient and continue treatment with the disastrous health consequence. Most logical concept. TB is not a curable disease of Indian circumstance. Curing TB is more than diagnostic. Government surveillance mechanism deficient. India will free risk-free only when the poverty alleviation program are effectively successfully implemented. Understand devastated family in some way. So option. Curing TB is more dangerous diagnostic medical treatment. Does not kill heart. And another truth is deep-seated support to the families. So that's it for today. And next we will discuss into the complete. थैंक यू, हैव अ नाइस डे।